Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. We're back in my shop. Mitch is behind the camera. Thank you, Mitch. We're doing a mock-up of the Aermacchi today. We're going to look at a few pieces that I've worked on. I built a wheel. I've got a really nice alloy rim out of California, XL rim made in Japan. And I had some comments saying that after you build a wheel, you're supposed to have it in a lathe and you take a small skim out of the drum, so it's perfectly true. Well, my lathe isn't large enough. So what we're gonna do, I got a dial indicator here. We're gonna actually see if it's out of round, how much it's out of round, if it is. I have not checked, so I have no idea. It's a brand new rim. It's really straight. And I was really careful as I brought it up to tension. So we're gonna check now, and I have no idea what it's gonna show. It looks like it's out about 3 thou. Not bad. I think I can live with that. So that's good, only 3 thou. That's the width of a human hair. So that's very, very small. So that's a good thing. We're gonna mount a tire. I have an old race tire, and one of the things I have to do now is some of the spokes are poking through just a little bit. They're a little bit sharp. I can use my new belt sander and just knock off that sharpness. Oh, there's one that's definitely sticking out right there. I have a rim band, 18-inch rim band. On these vintage road races, you almost always use 18-inch wheels because all of the road race rubber, all the good stuff is 18-inch. So there we go, I've got the hole lined up. Flip it over. And there's a rim band. It stops the inner tube from going into the spokes. Inflate it just a little bit. There we go, that's good enough. And tires inner tubes used to come with talcum powder on them. It stops the inner tube from sticking onto the inside of the tire. So they don't add talcum powder anymore, so that's something that I like to do. I'll go grab a tire. I got a used racing tire, and it's in the oven to make it a little bit softer, make it a little bit easier to put on. I've got a container. It's a grease container that someone gave me, but it's a really good size, and I split some tubing so it goes over the rim, and that's perfect for if you're working on a wheel, because the spokes rest on the plastic or the rubber. Nothing gets hurt. Here's the used race tire. I took it off of Ruby Racer in 2013. And you can see how it's been used. See how the rubber in the cornering, see how it starts to flake off. I use hand cleaner as a lubricant. It works well. You don't need a whole lot of it, and I do need to be careful here because that's a brand new rim and it's easy to scratch. I'm going to try and be very careful, but it's a race bike, so if it does get a couple marks, I won't panic. Got my tire levers, got some nice ones. Hopefully it goes on well. I can feel the warmth in the rubber still, so that's gonna help. If you ever put on a cold tire, you're fighting it. I found that these were handy over the years. They're just inch dowels of wood. So as you pull the tire up, it's hard to get inside there. So what I did, I remember now, I had to think about it. I pull the tire off a little bit, like this. I put it under this side, like that. So that allows me space to get in here now for the tube, because I got to get it into the valve hole. Okay, there it is. This is just one of those little valve stem nuts, and if I put it on there, it can't pop out. That's why I'm doing that, just to, so it stays there. So now, take out the wooden dowels, flip it over, and ease that down. There we go. And you have to make sure that the inner tube isn't between the rim and the tire. And now the rest of the inner tube can be fed in. I'm not going to balance this wheel because this tire probably won't get used, but it's good to show. As you put on the tire, I was taught that you always end up at the valve stem. So you don't start at the valve stem. That's the last part to go on. And all you tire experts out there, you probably have an opinion of what I'm doing. I know that, but that's okay. And no pinching. No pinching of the tube. I'm going to hold that with my knee. It also helps if this sinks down into the channel of the rim, because then it gives you more space. So you can see how that sunk down quite a bit there. And you got to put the valve stem all the way up, otherwise it can catch. You can catch the tire between the rim, or the inner tube between the tire and the rim. There we go. Okay. No, it didn't pop, but what you're looking for is equal amounts. See this line here? That line with next to my fingernail? That should be equal all the way around. And that looks good. I'm gonna flip it over and see what the other side looks like. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm gonna put it back in the stand and give it a spin. Not bad. If you look at it straight on, that's how you tell if it's out, and that's good for me. Over here, I've got other parts. I got the brake shoes. We got the fork blades, things like that. So we're gonna do a little bit of assembly here, and we'll slowly build up this bike. There's the brake drum. The backing plate, that's what you call that. This is Honda 450. I don't have to make everything super tight. This is just a mock-up to see if everything fits well. So we'll put on the torque stay. That's a nice fit. And let's wander over here to the surface table. I'm going to show you about the triple clamps. Okay, these are off a beta fork. It's B-E-T-E-R. It's made in Spain, and these particular ones came off a Can-Am motorcycle that was made in Quebec. This is what I start with basically. You can see all the holes here. That's where the brake cable goes, I think, and then this is the handlebar mount. So what I've done is I've worked on these. I've filled in the holes. I didn't want to do any welding because that takes away the heat treating. So I took some 6061, I made it soft, I heated it up, let it cool. Then I bored out the holes and I made a nice fit, and then I hammered it. And then I filed off all the mounts. So there's a little bit of work that's gone into this. This is the original steer tube, and it wouldn't fit on the Aermacchi, so I made a drawing, an actual drawing, and then I made this yesterday, and I put two lines, red lines, right here and here for this piece here, this section here, where the bearing race goes over. And then I machined from the wrong line, so I screwed up. So I had a choice. I could either shut my shop, go to the metal workshop, go to the metal shop, buy some more DOM tubing and start all over again, or I could braze it up. So I chose to braze it up yesterday. So I made a nut, but it doesn't have any slots there. I want to use a C-wrench in there. So I've got the mill set up. Why don't we go to the mill, and I'll mill 4 slots there. Let's do that now. I made an arbor because the arbor has to hold this piece. You see how it just fits over there? It's a nice fit. Then I've got an 8mm bolt. I've got a slotting saw, and I want to put one every 90 degrees. So there we go, that's held. I've already made this in the center. So we'll start out, we'll do I think I want the cut to be, how deep? I guess it's got to be as deep as this. We'll go maybe 3/16 deep. And there's 90. And there's 90. And the last cut at 270. Nice. I guess I didn't have to go quite as deep, but that's okay. I need to make an insert to go inside here. It's going to be a 6mm thread, so I need to sand the inside to make it nice and smooth so that the Loctite can grab onto it. I've got my sanding stick here. See the slot? You have to be careful, it doesn't grab your fingers. And then I'll just sand the inside. Let's go find a piece of aluminum and make it just so it fits in there. So we got to take off about, I think I want it about that long. Got to take off about 100 thou. So 16 thou to come off. That's gonna work. I can just press that in. Okay, I'll make a thread now. And that's how I tap a thread fast in the lathe. And then I lock it and then bring it back out. I like doing that. As long as you don't break a tap. That's why you have your hand on the chuck, and as soon as the tap goes in far enough, you slack it open. So we'll cut this off, we'll face it, and we'll put it in. I put some Loctite in there. It's retaining compound, 620. You can see inside. So I might have to press this. Well, no. Oh, look at that. There we go. It's in there. We'll just leave it like that. I was wanting it down just a little bit. That should harden up in about half an hour. We have to assemble all of the triple clamps now, so let's do that. I haven't assembled this yet. I worked on this last couple days, so let's see what happens. That's a nice fit. It always makes a little different sound as it seats. So you can tell by the sound. So now the bearing race goes on. Okay. That goes on pretty good. Now I have to shorten these forks, so I think we need about 6 inches here. That's about, look at that. How's that for, not bad, out of 1/16 of an inch, that's all. It's just a 6mm Allen screw. Got loose ball bearings. These are 3/16, so this is very old school headset. And I was told that when you put the ball bearings in there, you always leave space for one. If you fill it right up, you put too many in there. So let's see how that works out here. Maybe this is bringing back memories for some of the viewers. You probably got to be about 50 or 60 years old to remember this kind of stuff. All my early bicycles that I owned, they all had loose balls. I don't remember any cages. It's a lot easier now with the bearing races. So let's see. There we go. See, one space for one ball there. You want to leave that space. You don't want to fill it up. That's what I was told many years ago. Okay, space for one. It's just a mock-up, otherwise I'd be putting extra grease in here. This is just, it all comes apart again, so that's why it is like it is. That went on nicely. I'm going to put little anti-seize on there. Just, it's aluminum. I don't need any seizing going on the threads. I'm told you can't buy these anymore. These are out of reach, obsolete. There we go. I use the soft side. This side's a little softer than this side. Okay, so it's a little bit proud. I need to make it a little bit less, but it's mock-up. So that looks good. We're going to fit the engine in here now and see what that looks like. It's an empty engine. I don't have anything in it, so it's not too heavy. Actually, there's a transmission shaft in it, so I guess there is something in it. I've got these labeled left and right because it's easy to mix up there. See how they're really close, but see how the one hole is just off a little bit? So I made stamps. I got right side and I got left side. At the bottom you get little alloy spaces to go in here. Like that. If you're wondering what year this bike is, I call it a 1972. So it's a copy of an Aermacchi Allodoro, which is the race bike. And for a little while they were successful. And then the Yamaha two-strokes came on real strong, and that was kind of the end of Aermacchi as a competition bike. Although they did have a two-stroke for a little while, but that wasn't successful for a whole long time, maybe a few years. Larger spaces go into the bottom here. Okay, so nothing is torqued down, but everything is just kind of snug. So the engine's in its place. We have handlebars, we have clip-on handlebars. They're a wee bit snug, they must be a good fit. I think I have to open up the slots a little bit. Oh, there we go. That went on nicely. It's been a few years since I raced. I used to really like racing the little Aermacchi 350. It was a lot of fun to ride. Okay, now the triple clamp goes back on. Like that. I've got the front mount here. This is an old one. It's got too many holes in it, so I've got the new plates here, but I can show you where this goes. Got mounts mounted onto the steering head. And these are the steering stops. These are in the wrong position, I think, but when the forks turn, the inside of the fork tube hits this, and so by making them shorter or longer, you can adjust the steering stops. I got the bearings all mounted in there. I made up some alloy inserts and reamed it out. So I've got needle roller bearings in there. The actual swing arm axle, and that is off I think it's a Honda 175 XL. But it's nice. That goes in like that. Axle adjusters go on each side. And then this is the right height for the rear wheel. So, and the swing arm should be coming down at a 10-degree angle. That's what you want for the anti-squat of the rear end. I did a little research. These are seat mounts. Those will get glued in there later, like that. Then I've got foot pegs here. These bolts are a little short, but I still have to make the rear brake. On this bike, the shifting's on the right and the rear brake is on the left, so I need to make up a spacer here and get a little rear brake working there. It's for the exhaust that hangs off that part right there. I have to order shocks, and I need to make the shock mounts here, but I'm not going to make the shock mounts till I actually have the shocks. I've got Magura levers made in Germany. They're pretty nice. I used to think they were really nice, and then I made my own levers, and these are okay now. But I don't think I'm going to make levers for this bike. It's too much work. This is the first time this has been mocked up. Never had enough pieces to do a mock-up before. I like it when things all come together. I think I mentioned I like working on race bikes, especially. I like the end of the lever to come to the end there. I need to make little end caps here out of aluminum, so that's one of the projects coming up. This is the tank and the seat, which have to be mounted. I'm going to make an alloy tank that goes underneath here because it's only got to be a really small tank. So this is just for the shape. That's, you can kind of see. You can see the idea now, how it shapes, how it shapes up. Something like that. And this is all supposed to be level, this line here. So it looks like everything needs to come up just a little bit. Something like that. There we go, Aermacchi. I hope you've enjoyed watching the mock-up of the Aermacchi as it assembled into some kind of a shape. Next week, what we're going to do is to make a shift lever, that's the shape, out of aluminum, and we're going to make a brake pedal out of steel. So I have some of the pieces already. Thank you very much for watching. Mitch and I both like coffee. Please buy us a coffee. Take care. See you next week.